There's no one who doesn't know about Count Dracula. He was Bram Stoker's brainchild and fodder for centuries of media adaptations. However, Dracula wasn't all alone. He reveled in female company. 3 of them. Yes, the Brides of Dracula, who haven't been as lucky in fame as their husband, will be getting all the attention in this video. Who are they? What do they look like? Etc. We are gonna dig deep. Keep your garlic ready, because no matter how gorgeous they are, their fangs are just as sharp. Who are the Brides of Dracula? Their journey began in 1897 in Stoker's novel Dracula, but the author didn't even care to give them names. All we know of them from the novel is that they're 3 sisters, all vampires, who stay with the Count in his castle in Transylvania. They are described as being extremely beautiful and seductive, who lured men in with their charm and devouring their blood. Dracula often gave them their victims, often implied to be children, to keep the sisters happy. The 3 weird sisters are living dead like Dracula, and their powers and weaknesses are the same: sunlight, garlic, and holy items. You know the drill. In the 3rd chapter of the book, 2 of them were stated to have dark hair and red eyes, while 1 was fair with blonde hair and blue eyes. The thing is, Stoker never really gave us a backstory as to who they were, or for that matter, didn't even mention them as Dracula's brides. But there are certain conjectures, and I'll get into those. What might have been the origin of the 3 sisters. In 1914, Bram Stoker wrote this short story titled Dracula's Guest, and that might help us connect the dots to identify at least one of the 3 sisters. In this tale, readers come to know of a vampire named Countess Dolingen of Graz. She is said to be pale and pretty with round cheeks and red lips. It's possible that one of the sisters might have been her. Yet there is no clear origin tale about the 3 women vampires. The 2 dark-haired ones look eerily similar to Count Dracula, and over time many scholars like Jan B. Gordon have suggested that Stoker implied incest. Those 2 might have been Dracula's daughters, and turning them all into brides in modern media somehow entangled vampirism with the sexual metaphor of incest. The blonde one, who I'm guessing is the same vampire from the short story, is actually Dracula's wife, while the other 2 are his offspring, who got his facial features. Now, I have a reason behind this theory. When the 3 first found Jonathan Harker, the 2 encouraged the blonde vampire to feed on him first, like it was her right. This hinted at some sort of a status and hierarchy at play here, and mother-daughter would make sense given the context. When Dracula rebuked them for trying to make Harker their meal, it could have been seen as an expression of both an envious husband and an angry father. Moreover, the blonde one reacted in a slightly more rebellious manner than the other 2, showing she might have a special connection with Dracula. That would mean Stoker indeed gave 1 wife to Dracula, and if not 3, he had at least 1 bride in the story. What does sisters mean in the novel? Sisters definitely did not signify their relationship to Dracula, but probably was used to show some kind of bond 3 vampires had within themselves. Yeah, I know I talked about the mother-daughter dynamic, but we know in some cases they do happen to be as close as sisters, albeit with a whole lot of disagreements and tension. Go watch Gilmore Girls if you don't believe me. Also, when Mina Harker was forced to drink Dracula's blood and was affected with vampirism, the 3 called her sister too. Mina and her best friend Lucy Westenra also called each other sisters, despite any blood relationship. I guess Stoker just made sisters before misters famous before it was a thing. Is there any chance that the vampire women were indeed Dracula's wives? Yeah, absolutely. They may have been his wives throughout his life and included descendants of his, who he turned into vampires. Yeah, incest is on the table again. Harker believed them to be well-mannered ladies, going by their dress and demeanor, further suggesting that they come from Dracula's lineage. Or maybe they were just some random women he killed and turned to propagate his race. Either way, it makes sense to bestow the title of Dracula's brides upon them. What are their powers? Oh, this is a fun one. The sisters were blessed with lethal beauty and a magnetic appeal, making them alluring predators. Their attractiveness and flirtatious nature happened to be their greatest weapon. I mean, even as vampires, you need to have a decoy before showing those teeth. And for the sisters, their smile and grace did the trick. Perfect. They could easily bewitch their victims and put them into a state of trance. Both Harker and Helsing found themselves uncontrollably attracted to them, yet had to repulse them. They are also immensely strong and somehow managed to pop out of nowhere. On top of that, they had these bat or bird-like wings and appear to be able to fly, or at least move at an exceptional speed and vanish in the mist. These are proof that they could shapeshift to an extent. Who were Dracula's brides in the 1992 film? There have been countless adaptations of Dracula's story, and with him come his brides. Just to clear the air, the moment the story jumped onto the screen, the three vampire women got the overarching identity of Dracula's brides. Anyway, first I'll be talking about the ones from Coppola's 1992 film Bram Stoker's Dracula. The two dark-haired brides were played by Monica Bellucci and Michaela Berku, with Florina Kendrick cast as the blonde vampire. Here, they were given a distinct Romanian nationality, obviously, and spoke the language of Romanian too. The three dressed pretty similarly, with layers of robes around their body. One of them was also spotted with snakes in her hair. Coming to footwear, they had none but anklets. The very idea of listening to the anklets jingling in a haunted castle is in itself a horror. They had pale skin with the usual fangs, and given they mostly stayed indoors or went out at night, I'm not really sure if sunlight could harm them. What are the powers and weaknesses of Dracula's brides in the 1992 movie? Of course, they came with a package of powers, and they are similar to Stoker's vision, just a bit more nuanced. I'll start with their strong suits first. The brides were pros at playing hide and seek. They could appear and disappear effortlessly, like suddenly emerging from the bed. They could also climb and stick to walls so well that Spider-Man would be insecure. In the movie, it was also implied that the brides had hypnotic skills, considering how they seduced Harker and manipulated a vampiric Mina into pouncing on Van Helsing. Superhuman strength is a given with these creatures. Dracula's brides were so strong they managed to kill 2 horses. However, they still had certain weaknesses, which are similar to the ones mentioned in the novel. However, the size of religious objects is linked to their potency in the face of the bride's power. For instance, when Harker was given a small cross at the beginning of the film, one of the brides managed to melt it into liquid when they were all over it. Yeah, she did shrink in fear for a moment, but got back to her feet in no time. What was their personality like? Well, Dracula's brides in Coppola's movie were just extremely sensual demons. Not just sensual per se, rather they were sexual deviants who cherished draining their victims. They're also smart enough to know when to stop feeding and not go over. It's like how we do it with cake. Gobbling it up is fine, but you don't really want to finish it in one sitting. Rather, going back to the fridge every now and then is so much more enjoyable. The brides did the same with Harker. They kept Harker weakened enough to keep controlling him and feeding off of him as and when they please. Now, the three brides also differed from one another in their attitudes and hunger. Also, in my opinion, the brides happened to love Dracula and they were charmed by him, but the vampire lord turned them merely out of loneliness. How did Dracula's brides differ from each other in the 1992 movie? The one played by Kendrick, you can identify her with all the snakes. She appeared to be the self-appointed leader and seemingly had the greatest pleasure in drinking from Harker. In fact, she was the last to appear before Harker, and this one only knew business. She bit off him immediately without any hesitation. The other two, however, happened to have a larger role in enticing the victim. The ones played by Bellucci and Berku would smother their prey with kisses, indicating that they were more interested in affection and physicality than just treating him as food. That being said, Bellucci as the bride has to be the most tempting of them all. I mean, when someone casts Monica Bellucci, of course they know how to play to her strong points. She was the one who tricked Harker into their chambers, whispering his name in a sultry whisper and then kissing him. The other bride, played by Berku, behaved like a typical wife. She claimed that Dracula never loved them because she stopped them from sucking the last drop of Harker's blood. Who are Dracula's brides in 2004's Van Helsing? In this movie, directed by Stephen Sommers, Dracula chose 3 women, turned them, and made them into his wives and henchwomen. The 3 brides were portrayed by Sylvia Coloca, Josie Marin, and Elena Anaya. Dracula, played by Richard Roxburgh, was captivated by his wives and always tried to comfort and assure them into not fearing him. The wives could literally hiss and spring in fear like a goddamn snake in this movie. Interestingly, they also get names in this one. The first bride, Verona, is a brunette who mostly kept to herself. She was elegant but equally commanding, hinting at a noble ancestry. It's insinuated that Verona was the first of his brides, giving her condescending tone and threatening facial expressions towards the others. I get it. Even if I don't say anything, my face does. However, she does love the other brides and wants nothing more than to serve her master. So much so that she wishes to have his children. Now that doesn't mean she didn't have the guts to disagree with Dracula. She died in Van Helsing's carriage, which was actually a steak bomb. It exploded and nailed her to death. Pun intended. Illyria is the second bride, whom Dracula initially tried to attract by offering her wealth and immortality. She didn't really want it, but somehow found herself visiting Dracula, not knowing that the big bad vampire had always established his hold on her. He was helped by Verona in the process, and finally one day, Dracula flew away with her and turned her into a creature of the night. Illyria was reportedly 500 years old and, out of the trio, respected her husband the most. She even didn't like competing for his attention. She too died during the final confrontation. Mariska happened to be the last bride. Not much is known about her past. It was, however, signaled that she was probably a dancer, and I kind of agree. The way she behaved, dressed, and flirted did scream performer energy. Mariska too was killed by Van Helsing. Rather, she was one of the first of the Monster Hunter's trophies. What are the bride's powers in the 2004 film? Same old, superhuman strength, speed, eternal life, yada yada yada. The immortality is tied to their regenerative healing ability. However, there was one power which was depicted vividly in this movie, unlike its predecessors, where it was mostly hinted at or slightly portrayed: shape-shifting. The brides could turn into demonic entities, particularly terrifying bat-like humanoids called hellbeasts. In this form, they sported leathery wings, claws, and jaws like that of a snake. Their powers also got boosted as hellbeasts. However, compared to Dracula himself, the brides retained their human features a little more. Okay guys, that's all for today. Dracula never gets old, pun intended. And turns out his brides are equally fascinating. Here's hoping we get more movies or shows on these underrated vampire queens, unearthing each of their origins and lives before they become vampires. Also, the differences between the novel and the media adaptations, starting from the very nomenclature of these vampire women, were amusing, to say the least.